All right, Nancy, you're good to go.
Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Northwest Indiana Green Drinks. This is our second presentation in our 10th year, and I really want to acknowledge that anniversary. Thanks in part to Kathy Sipple, who really helped us get started up in Michigan City. And we're now encompassing all of Northwest Indiana. So that means absolutely everybody in the whole region can join us every single time, and even from other parts of the states and the country of Canada, to learn about what we're up to and to become environmental advocates. So I do need to mention our sponsors, Northwest Indiana Green Drinks, of course, because that's the platform you're on right now. Save the Dunes is our partner, and Katie Hopgood's with us this evening, and she's providing us with all of the technical expertise and the platform support that we'll need for this evening. And I also want to acknowledge 219 Green Connect, and that's Kathy Sipple's organization. They provide us with our social media platform, with our email, MailChimp abilities, and all kinds of cool stuff like that. So Kathy, thank you so very much for doing that. Also, we have some co-hosts this month that I want to mention. One of them is WIMS Radio 1420 on your dial. And unfortunately, I was not able to call in earlier this week to actually do the short interview I usually do with them because I had oral surgery the end of last week. I'm missing 2 wisdom teeth. So if I'm talking a little funny, it's still because of that. Also, Sierra Club Indiana, and that's Amanda Shepard who's with us this evening. And then also the Duneland Sierra Club, which is our own chapter that's right up here in Northwest Indiana. I really want to welcome them and to acknowledge they've been trying to get in contact with me. So I will take care of completing that loop hopefully sometime next week. Okay, so that is what I have on my agenda for welcomes. And I also want to sincerely thank everybody who's here this evening and is going to take part in this session, both on this Zoom platform and also on Facebook Live. So if for some reason Zoom becomes an issue for you, you can go onto Facebook and go to Save the Dunes page and continue watching what we're doing this evening. Katie, I'm going to hand it off to you for those housekeeping items, please.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Hopgood. I'm the program director at Save the Dunes, and I'm excited to be here with you. Our presentation this evening is being recorded. That recording is going to live on the Save the Dunes Facebook page as well as our YouTube page. So if you're interested in sharing this presentation, we encourage you to do so. That is where you'll be able to find them. Once we get into our presentation, everyone is going to be muted without the ability to unmute. So if you're trying to ask a question, we encourage you to actually put that into either the chat in Zoom or into the comment section on the Facebook Live. After our presentation has concluded, we will go through those questions and answer them. So definitely jot those down in the chat or the comments as we go along so you don't forget them. And I think that might be it.
Okay, if you think so, Katie.
I think so. I think we're good.
Okay, I do want to acknowledge that Victoria Wittig is with us, and she was our absolutely marvelous presenter from Save the Dunes last month on partnerships for solving pollution in Northwest Indiana. So without further ado, I do want to introduce our guest presenter tonight, and I am so excited. Amanda is one of my most favorite people in the environmental movement. And before all of you came on, I acknowledged her for when she made a very long trip up to Northwest Indiana from Indianapolis and did an Advocacy 101 session for us. And that really was the source of inspiration and support for us really getting more people actively involved in getting to know their elected officials and taking action when action is needed down at the State House. So I met Amanda when she was a senior manager with Hoosier Environmental Council. And recently she has become the director of Sierra Club Indiana. I think I have that correct. Do I? Yes. Okay, if I don't, correct me, Amanda, okay? And I will amend what I've been telling people about you.
Sierra Club
So
Hoosier chapter. That's okay.
it is called the Hoosier chapter.
It is the
So
Hoosier
I
chapter.
need to stop calling you Sierra Club Indiana. I am so sorry.
You are
Okay,
forgiven.
thank you very much. So without further ado, I'll let Amanda go ahead and present to us what she has. And then we'll do the questions off of the chat first, followed by questions off of Facebook comments. And then Amanda said she used to be a school teacher and she loves chaos. So we will unmute everybody depending on us having time to do that. Okay? Okay, Amanda.
Before you get started, can I do this whole mute thing so that I can make sure that I can unmute you? Just want to make sure. Okay. You can still talk, right?
I don't know, testing?
Okay. No, you're good. All right. Good.
Yay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Nancy, for that really sweet introduction. I miss coming up to Northern Indiana, and I can't wait until all of this mess is over and I can come visit in person and share a tasty adult beverage again. So awesome. Hi, everyone. If you don't know me, I'm Amanda. As Nancy said, I am the director of the Sierra Club Hoosier chapter. I have only been in this role since April, I think it was, of this past year. So only been with the Sierra Club Hoosier chapter for about 10 months now. I'm super excited though. We're doing lots of good work. So I am going to share my screen with all of you. The majority of my presentation tonight will actually be focused on the legislative session because we are deep into it right now. So I am going to pull this up. Slideshow. All right, so hopefully you all can see my screen. All right, so yes, like I said, we are the Sierra Club Hoosier chapter, and I am going to give you just a really brief intro to who Sierra Club is. I figure most of you are probably pretty familiar with us, but I thought I would just give kind of a broad overview for those who maybe aren't as familiar. So the Sierra Club is comprised of lots of little subdivisions, essentially. So in the United States, there are 64 chapters of the Sierra Club. So there is at least one in every state. And in Indiana, we just have the Hoosier chapter. But then underneath the chapters are groups. So those are localized entities that exist that do kind of more regional within states foci. So in Indiana, we have different subgroups, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But really what I wanted to get across is just how large Sierra Club is. We have over 4 million members and supporters across the entire organization. So really, really well developed. And I'm sure you all have heard of the Sierra Club, so you probably are really familiar with the fact that we've been around for quite some time. I wanted to show this to you. This is fairly new. You guys are some of the first people to see this outside of the Sierra Club. So this is essentially breaking down what our organization looks like. And so at the bottom, you can see the roots of what kind of we grow out of. So members, communities, volunteers. And then coming up, you have the trunk, which really is our vision of what we want to accomplish and what we are looking towards. And then the branches go out from there. And those comprise 4 basic things, which is our Outdoors for All work, our justice work, our climate work, and also our wildlife, water, and land work. And then in there are lots of different things that we want to do. And essentially, what I really wanted to let you all know, you may have seen in really in 2020, but really prior to that, Sierra Club started diversifying the things that we were focusing on. So instead of only focusing on a lot of conservation work, which is still very integral, very important to what we do, we also are being more intentional about using equity and addressing equity and actually looking at things with a lens towards not just how does it impact the environment, but how does it impact the people who live in the environment. So we really have started taking a stronger stance on racial justice issues, even if it may not necessarily fall into the environmental umbrella. We know that in order to have a sustainable future, everyone has to have a path toward that sustainable future. And that means that they are free to live, free to breathe, free to exist without fear of others attacking them for the way they look, the way they sound, or the way that they practice their faith. So as the local level or more state level, we are the Hoosier chapter. We were formed in 1975. We are a membership organization. We currently have over 10,000 members in Indiana. So for Sierra Club, membership essentially is like you basically pay a certain amount every year. I know some of you are probably monthly donors, and thank you for those that are. Thank you for those that just, that give anything, because we obviously, I'm not here to raise money, but we will take it if you want to give it at any time. A lot of people don't know that Sierra Club, the chapters actually basically have to do most of their own fundraising. So we do not get all of our money from national. We actually have to raise that ourselves. And so we have about 10,000 members. So those are people who donate directly to the Sierra Club Hoosier chapter. But we have, gosh, on our mailing list, I think we have over 50,000 members who receive our emails. So lots of information that we try and get out to people. So we include 6 groups and networks across the state, from Northwest Indiana, so hello Dunelands, AKA the region, to Southern Indiana. We have different groups and networks in various places in the Dunelands. We also have one in Northeast Indiana. We have one in Columbus, the Winding Waters group. We have one around Indianapolis, and we have one in Southwestern Indiana as well. We are passionate and active in working on a number of issues, including clean air, clean water, conservation, and environmental justice. And we believe that access to the outdoors is a human right, and we are willing to fight towards access for all. So I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to tell you all how we want you to stay informed. If you have not been paying attention to the legislative session, buckle in, because we're about to dive deep into it. If you don't know, the Indiana legislature goes into session in usually early January. And this year we are in a short session. So this session will actually end probably in early March. They're really looking to get out of there as quickly as possible, because our legislators need to go into campaign mode to get reelected. Right or wrong, that is essentially what they're looking to do. So they're trying to end session very quickly. It is not a budget year. During a budget year, session would be a little longer. It would go until April. So I wanted to put this up here. We do have a legislative page on our website, and you can see that here. And in addition to this, we have a bill tracker. So on this page, there is, if you scroll down, there is actually a link that will take you to a bill tracker through a program that we have called Quorum. And you can see where every bill that we are tracking is in the legislature right now. I also wanted to point you all to our different social media links, because that is a really great way for you to stay engaged and involved and to be updated on what's happening. I try and do calls to action at least once a week, where I say, here are the bills that Sierra Club Hoosier chapter is working on. Here are the places that we need to have calls coming into, and then kind of give some hold on, I'm going to shut that off. Sorry, it came into my earbuds. Can someone give me a thumbs up? Can you still hear me okay? Okay, great. Thank you so much. So we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we are on Twitter, and we're on LinkedIn. So I will drop all of this in the chat later on, so that if anyone has issues getting to any of these, you'll be able to just click on those links. All right, if you don't already know who your legislators are, and I know most of you probably do, because I recognize your names and your faces, and I know that you're active and involved, but if you don't, you can go to bit.ly/INLegis, and you do have to capitalize the IN and L there, and it will take you to the Find Your Legislator page. And this is a page on iga.in.gov, and that is the web page for the General Assembly, and you can just put in your address and it will pop up with who your legislators are, and you can click a link. It will take you to their caucus pages, and in there you will find all the contact information. Alternatively, if you just look up who your legislators are, I am happy to help you out if you just send me an email and say, hey, Amanda, my legislators are so-and-so and so-and-so. Can you send me their contact info? Easy breezy. I can absolutely do that. I have a whole spreadsheet that I can pull that from and send to you as well. And the reason I want you to do this, the reason I want you to know who your legislators are, you knew it was coming, is because I want you to meet them. Now, I should have taken this out. This is leftover from a couple years ago. Please don't go to the State House in person. I know most people probably are going to be like, why is this? What wouldn't you want us to go? No, please don't. Not right now. Not with COVID. Instead of meeting them in person, what I would highly recommend you do is try and set up a Zoom meeting with them. For those of you who don't know what's going on at the State House right now, it is a hot mess. Legislators are not required to wear masks. Many of them are not wearing masks. I'm not going to get political about this, but let's just say it's a bit of a health risk to be in that building right now. And I would prefer you all stay safe and warm and healthy. So contact them, ask them to meet via Zoom. That way you still get that kind of face-to-face. They identify your name with your face. You get a more personal feel rather than just a phone call. But you can also make a phone call as well. You can call them, talk to them, although more than likely, if you're just talking on the phone, you will be actually speaking with a legislative assistant. The LAs are great. They're usually super duper helpful. I've never had a bad conversation with one. So do not hesitate to call them as well. Once session is over, I always encourage people, and again, we're going to assume here that COVID is going to get better. I don't know. You could do a virtual coffee with them. It's really important to get to know your legislators outside of the legislative session. Obviously, during session, they're super busy, they're overwhelmed, they're stressed. Even if we don't necessarily maybe agree with what they're doing, they're still stressed and they're busy. So contact them now, tell them the things we need you to tell them, but then get to know them outside of session. That way next year, when it rolls around, they're going to know who you are, and you'll be able to have a little bit more of a personal connection with them. Yeah, so meet them virtually for now, make phone calls to them, email them as follow-up, so you can reach out to them and have a conversation, and then send an email basically saying thank you and summarize what it was that you talked about. Just some really quick tips on how to talk to your elected officials. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory. Probably don't even need to tell you this, but it is important to remember to be courteous, because it is very likely that you may have very different opinions than they do. And I know if you're like me, you're going to get really worked up internally, because it can be frustrating, to know that you have such a wide gap between what you know is right and what your representative or senator might think is right. Always try and just be as courteous as you can, but also firm, and keep them on track. Again, get to know them as a person, prepare in advance. So if you do get a meeting set up with your legislator and you need help setting up talking points, or maybe you need to brush up on the subject you're going to talk about, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help you with that. I also have lots of colleagues who might be experts on a topic that maybe I'm not, that I could connect you with, and they could give you good feedback as well. So never hesitate to reach out to any of us that are in the environmental nonprofit sector. If we're working in the legislature, we're just going to kiss the ground you walk on if you're actually reaching out to your lawmakers, because that's what we need. Again, follow up after your meeting. Make sure you kind of reiterate what you talked about, send them any materials that you promised them. Don't critique them. Obviously, you're probably going to disagree with some things unless you're really lucky and you are on the same page. But just keep at it with your points. Say, I understand what you're saying, but did you know? And oftentimes they don't. Our legislators are just normal people like you and me. They are not experts in everything that they're talking about. And occasionally they will actually come around and they'll be like, I had no idea, and so just keep at it. And like I said, don't go off topic. They might try and redirect the conversation to something else. Always try to just steer back. When we're in the legislative session, we encourage you to only meet on one topic at a time. Don't try and cram 5 bills into one meeting, because you're going to overwhelm your lawmaker, right? Try and just do 1, maybe 2, especially if they're related to one another in some way, like if they're both energy bills or they're both water related bills. All right, so I'm going to dive directly into the bills that still exist that are moving through the legislature right now. So these are ones that have made it through the first half of session and are now moving into the second chamber. Before I do this, though, I wanted to give a brief overview. I figure most of you know this, but just in general, what happens in the legislature is once a bill is introduced, it is going to be assigned to a committee. And I'm just going to talk like from here on out, right? It's already gone through the first chamber, and basically this process is what it's already been through once, and it's going to go through it again. So it's been moved to the second chamber, so either the House or the Senate. So House bills are now in the Senate. So like HB 1209 started in the House, it's now going to be in the Senate. It does not change numbers, it does not change names. It is still House Bill 1209. It's just being heard in the Senate now. Okay, so it goes to the Senate, it's assigned to committee. Once it's assigned to committee, then we ask people to activate and start reaching out to committee members. So if your senator or representative is on a committee, we ask you to go ahead and reach out to them now and encourage them to vote the way that you want them to. If your senator or representative is not on a certain committee, you can reach out to the chair of that committee because they technically represent the entire state because they are chairing a committee. But you can also go ahead and just reach out to your senator and rep anyway, because if a bill gets to the floor, then you're going to want to already be talking to them. So I just kind of wanted to cover that in general for all of you, that that's kind of the process, and there are opportunities for you to talk to your legislators throughout this entire process. Once the bill reaches the floor, so once it goes through committee, there is no opportunity for testimony. So if any of you brave souls decide you want to testify on a bill, unfortunately, the legislature is not allowing virtual testimonies. You would actually have to travel to the State House to do so. We can absolutely help you with logistics with that if you're interested in doing that. But that is only an opportunity that comes up when a bill is in committee. So I just wanted to throw that out there. If anyone is really passionate about something we talk about tonight, hit me up and I can help you figure that out. All right, I'm going to start with positive legislation because that so often is not the thing that we actually get to work on. So these two bills that I'm going to talk about are ones that we are supporting. And the first one is House Bill 1196. This is a bill that addresses homeowner associations and solar panels. So if we go back, way back like 5 years to 2017, you all maybe remember Senate Enrolled Act 309. So it was SB 309 back then. It was opposed by basically everyone, all public interest groups opposed it, renewable energy companies opposed it, tech CEOs opposed it, and it basically eliminated net metering. And since the passage of that bill, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are increasingly interested in ways to promote rooftop solar. And one of the ways to do that is through this bill. So House Bill 1196 provides a path for prospective solar owners to be able to install rooftop solar in neighborhoods that are currently governed by a homeowner association. And HOAs often might have restrictions or even prohibitions against rooftop solar. So this bill addresses that. It would put in place basically a law that says that HOAs cannot prohibit solar, and the restrictions that they're allowed to put are much more manageable and doable for people who actually do want to put solar panels on. So we are supporting this bill, and so what we are asking everyone to do is to contact your state senator and urge them to support HB 1196. It has been assigned to Senate Judiciary. The chair of that committee is Liz Brown, and I am including emails here for the chairs of all these committees in case you're interested in reaching out to them and encouraging them to hear these two positive bills. I'm pretty sure this bill will get a hearing. Maybe I shouldn't say that, maybe I should knock on wood. I think both of these bills we're going to talk about are pretty well supported, but it always is helpful to reach out and to talk to people and encourage them to do the right thing. The next bill is Senate Bill 411, and this is a renewable energy siting bill. So a little bit of context here. Last year, renewable energy investments in local Indiana communities earned almost $38 million in property, state, and local taxes. And our state saved 2 billion gallons of water consumption that would otherwise have been used at fossil fuel plants. So because these renewables were in place and we could produce electricity using those, we saved water and we saved money. And we can't afford to miss out on all of this money for Hoosier towns, farmers, and counties by turning away renewable energy projects due to regulatory hurdles. And this is what Senate Bill 411 addresses. It would establish state incentives for communities to build wind and solar projects in their counties by laying out best practices for local zoning. It is likely, it has not been assigned to committee yet. It is likely going to be assigned to House Utilities. And actually just found out today that once it makes it through that first committee, it will probably be reassigned to another committee. It will go to Ways and Means. So this is going to have 2 hurdles to jump before it can even get to the floor. So we will keep you informed. My guess is its first committee will be Utilities though. So I'm pretty confident you can go ahead and reach out. You can go ahead and reach out to your representatives. Remember, this is a Senate bill, which means it's now in the House. So go ahead and feel free to reach out to your representatives, express your support for this. And you can also reach out to Ed Soliday. He is the chair of House Utilities, and he's also the House sponsor. So it's his bill. I mean, he's sponsoring this bill, so he's going to hear it anyway. But it's always nice to reach out to someone who we often butt heads with and be like, we really like this, you know, and so we want to support it. So yeah, so that's what you can do. You can contact Ed Soliday, and you can also contact, if he's not your state rep, reach out to whoever your state rep is and urge them to support Senate Bill 411. I do want to make a brief side note here. There is some talk about amending one line in this bill to address some concerns that some people have about making sure that the land around the solar panels is utilized properly, whether that be through pollinator-friendly plants or whether that be through even crops. So some talk of agrovoltaics is actually coming up, where you can actually put solar panels in a field with corn or soybeans or whatever. We support the bill as is, but it would be even better if it were amended to include that language as well. So I just wanted to say that, because I'm sure some of the people on this call have probably heard some of that, the mutterings about SB 411. So I just wanted to clarify where the chapter stands. And again, I'm just speaking for the chapter. I'm not speaking for any other groups that might be represented here tonight. So just wanted to make that clear. All right, so now we have the good things that we wanted to talk about, but we have to talk about the bad bills. And I thought, I'm not going to mince words. I was like, what should I call this section? And I was like, I'm just going to call it bad bills, because these are just bad bills. They just are. These bills are ones that we are working to stop. Those of you who remember a few years ago when I was actually at HEC, we worked on a no more stringent than bill back then. I think it was 1381. I think, but it is back. It is now House Bill 1100. Some slight differences in this. In fact, this one's even more egregious because it would impact so many more things. It would essentially limit Indiana state agencies like DNR, like IDEM. It would limit their ability to adopt state standards to protect our public health and the environment. And one of the biggest issues with this bill is it includes no more stringent than language, which would prevent the state from adopting any rules that are stricter or more specific than corresponding federal rules. So in context, what this means is, let's say Indiana decides, look, the federal limitation on, let's say mercury. The federal limitation on mercury is not high enough. We're concerned about the levels of mercury in our fish. And so we actually want to have a rule that makes it so that instead of just having this level, instead of having to be under this level of mercury, you have to be under this level of mercury, right? So it's safer, it's healthier, it's not as concerning. People don't have to monitor how much fish they eat. If this were passed, that could not happen because it's more stringent than the federal rule. Now, there are some amendments that have gone in place, which is like a quid pro quo, essentially saying that, okay, you could pass a more stringent than rule, but then you have to take back a rule that's more stringent. And it doesn't even have to be related. It's a really egregious bill. They're just looking for ways to say that they compromised. That's not compromise. That's just grasping at straws. So this bill directly prohibits stricter or more specific Indiana rules without even fully defining what no more stringent than means. And it doesn't provide any flexibility to Indiana agencies to address specific concerns and needs that we have in this state. So it's going to lead to a lot of confusion. It's going to lead to a lot of uncertainty, and it's going to lead to more litigation over what rules are actually more stringent. So we really are encouraging people to reach out and strongly, strongly oppose this bill. It is flying through right now. It's actually assigned to Senate Commerce and Technology already. It is not up for a hearing yet. It has not been assigned, or it has not been put on the agenda for that committee yet. However, there is a committee hearing scheduled for next Thursday, I believe, for this particular committee, and it could be added as short as 24 hours prior. So this is one that we're really pushing people to take action on as soon as possible. The chair of Senate Commerce is Chip Perfect. His email is there. We would ask you to reach out to him and encourage him not to give this bill a hearing, and then also to contact your state senator and strongly oppose HB 1100. Again, I'm going to reiterate, for any of these bills, if you need talking points, if you need some more clarification, feel free to reach out and I'm happy to provide that to you. House Bill 1134. Now, this is one that you all might not have expected to pop up on my presentation, but it is one that I want to address for a couple of reasons. From a personal note, as Nancy mentioned, I am a former educator. And so this one is one that really strikes right to the heart of me as a former educator and as someone who educates the public every day, even if I'm not in a classroom, and I have kids that are in school. If you haven't seen this bill yet, this is House Bill 1134. It is the very egregious anti-education bill. It would require all school curricula to be posted online for parental review. And sidebar here, it already is in most instances. Most schools use a program like Canvas or something similar where parents can see what their kids are learning every day. But what this bill would do is it would require teachers to have their entire year of lessons put online, available for parents to see by August 1st. And if any of you have ever stepped foot in a classroom, you know that that is just untenable. It is not possible to plan out an entire year of lessons by August 1st, one from a time perspective, but two from a differentiation. So I'm sorry, that's the educational jargon. That is basically saying in a classroom, teachers are going to modify their lessons for children who have different learning needs, right? And so what this would basically mean is a teacher would have to stick to their lesson plan for the whole year without ever changing. So if kids are having trouble with a particular concept in algebra, too bad, Timmy, we're moving on because the state says we have to, right? So the reason I wanted to talk about this as Sierra Club Hoosier chapter, though, is what it allows is it allows parents, the reason they want all those lesson plans online right away is they want parents to have the ability to opt their children out of certain lessons. This is largely race driven. Let's be very clear here. Certain people are concerned about critical race theory being taught in schools. Never mind the fact that critical race theory is a graduate level concept that is never taught in public schools in secondary or primary education. What they're actually talking about is more historical, but they're referring to it as critical race theory. But it wouldn't just apply to that. Essentially what could happen is, I'm sorry, I'm gonna get really passionate, you guys. So I taught science to 8th graders. And when I was a teacher, I had a parent who did not believe that climate change was happening. And he made my life a living, you know what, trying to force me to stop teaching it. And so essentially what he could have done is he could have, if this bill had been passed, he could have pulled his child out of my classroom and insisted I provide alternative lessons for that child during that time because they didn't want their kid to learn about climate change. And it would apply to any subject that a parent decides they don't want their kids to hear about. So anyway, that's why I think this is an issue that we need to be concerned about as environmentalists as well. It impacts us just as much as it impacts anyone else. It changes how we educate what will be our future electorate. We need them to be educated. We need them to be informed. We need them to know all of the true history of our nation and also the way that the world works from a scientific perspective, from a political perspective, from all perspectives. All right, I will stop with my soapbox there. Sorry, taking my teacher hat back off. It has been assigned to Senate Education and Career Development. The chair of that committee is Jeff Ratz. His email is here. Contact him, contact your state senator, urge them to vote no on HB 1134. If you want to get more involved on this bill, I'll actually point you to the ISTA and all the wonderful people doing work on education. We don't have a lot of bandwidth to spend on HB 1134, but I'm bringing it up every time I talk to people just to redirect them to other groups who are doing the great work on this bill. All right, now we're going to focus back in on environmental bills. If I can get my slide to change, we're going to talk about false climate solutions in the Indiana legislature. Little context here, if you are not aware. At the beginning, actually, you know what? We're going to go all the way back to last year, to last summer, when some really great kids started meeting with legislators and talking about putting together a bill to introduce in this session that would address the climate crisis. Confront the Climate Crisis, if you have not heard of them, they are phenomenal. They are a group that started in West Lafayette and now are comprised of youth from all over the state. And they put together two pieces of legislation with a co-author, Senator Ron Alting, who is from West Lafayette, who is a Republican. So they had bipartisan support. The primary author was a Republican. They introduced these two pieces of legislation into the legislature this year. Neither of those pieces of legislation were granted a hearing. One of the bills would have created a climate task force. One of the bills basically was just a, yes, we acknowledge climate change is an issue. It was a resolution saying this is an issue, we need to address it. And neither of those bills were given a hearing. Instead, what the Indiana legislature is doing, other than those two bills that I talked at the very beginning about, which are pretty minor bills. I mean, they're important and we want them to pass. But other than that, the only bills that are moving in the legislature right now are false climate solution bills. So the first one I want to talk about, the first issue I want to talk about is carbon capture and sequestration. If we were in a classroom, I would ask you all to raise your hand if you know what this is. But since we're not, I wanted to give you a quick overview of what CCS is. You might also hear it referred to as, Kathy raised her hand, thank you, Kathy. You may also hear this referred to as CCUS, which is carbon capture, utilization, and storage. So what I wanted to do here is just kind of give you a brief overview of what CCS is. So essentially, carbon capture and sequestration in the context of what we're going to be talking about tonight is where you have an industry that is producing emissions. And rather than those carbon emissions going out into the atmosphere, they are capturing them, hence the carbon capture. And they are injecting them into a reservoir. And sometimes they might use that carbon to actually then pull more gas or oil out of the ground. That is not what's happening with the bills that are being introduced right now that we're aware of. They might use it to produce other products and things, as you see in this graphic. But essentially, that's what's happening, right? So an industry produces carbon, instead of it being emitted, they capture that and they inject it into a reservoir. It has to be geologically stable. I could go into all the technicalities of that, but I'm not going to. So there's a lot of factors that have to go into identifying a site for CCS to actually be feasible. So there are three bills really in the legislature right now that deal with carbon capture and sequestration. So instead of hearing legislation that would have really addressed climate change in a meaningful way and in a collaborative way, we are seeing these bills that put special interests ahead of the needs of Hoosiers. House Bill 1249 and its companion Senate Bill 265 both provide near blanket immunity for a proposed carbon sequestration project at Wabash Valley Resources. That is the name of the company. These are moving through the legislature quickly. HB 1249 and SB 265 have both passed out of their original chambers and are on to the other. The reason we're concerned with these two bills, one, is no company should be given blanket immunity for any impact of their actions. And that's essentially what these bills do. So Wabash Valley Resources is wanting to build a whole new facility that will start up new emissions, right? So they're not capturing emissions that already exist. It's not a net gain for us. It's not taking carbon out of the atmosphere. It's building a whole new industry and then capturing the emissions from that industry and injecting it into the ground. So from a carbon perspective, you could say, well, it's neutral, right? The problem is we don't know what the impacts will be from that carbon capture and sequestration project. There are lots of side impacts that could happen from CCS projects. And again, I'm not going to go into all of it tonight, but groundwater contamination, it can cause destabilization of bedrock, but lots of things that can happen. And we don't think that Wabash Valley Resources should get a special pass that no matter what happens, they aren't liable for it. And that's what these bills would do. Meanwhile, another bill, House Bill 1209, paves the way for carbon sequestration from new industrial sources, just like Wabash Valley Resources, at a time that really we should be limiting the sources of emissions, not building new ones and then burying them, right? We should be looking at how to cut back on emissions, not just continual growth of industry that produces emissions and then just, trying to put a Band-Aid on it. And that's what this is. It's putting a Band-Aid on a gushing wound. And actually, it's putting a Band-Aid on one section of a wound we're making larger, right? That's essentially what's happening here. Additionally, on HB 1209, an amendment has been added that singles out Wabash Valley Resources and exempts them from any regulations set forth in the bill, allowing them again to move forward with their project with immunity. So you know that Wabash Valley Resources is very, very involved with legislators. You can imagine there are some deep pockets happening here, and it's very concerning that there are now 3 bills essentially giving Wabash Valley this power. So we need you to take action, reach out to your legislators. So contact your state senator about HB 1249 and HB 1209, and contact your state rep about Senate Bill 265. 1249 has been assigned to Senate Natural Resources, and the chair of that committee is Sue Glick. We actually are fairly hopeful because an amendment has been added to 265 that, if I remember correctly, makes it a little less egregious. So we're hopeful that maybe Senator Glick will take action and do the same for HB 1249. But HB 1209 and SB 265 have neither one have been assigned to committee yet. So keep an eye out on our website. We will update you when those have been assigned to committee so that you know who the chairs are and who to reach out to. I'm seeing lots of chats coming in. I guess we can get to all those at the end, right? Okay. I'm used to, as a teacher, I'm like, I want to address all the questions as they come up. Okay. Let's see. And get my screen to go forward. Okay, the next one that is a false climate solution has to do with nuclear reactors, and in particular, these reactors called small modular reactors. I just wanted to throw a picture up here so you all knew what an SMR is. SMRs are small nuclear reactors, so they have a smaller footprint than the large, huge ones that you see at some nuclear power plants. So the benefit of these is that they can be manufactured and then shipped and installed on site, so they don't have to be built on site. If you actually go to the Department of Energy's website, I found this very interesting because they're really touting SMRs as the future of renewable energy. So I'm going to read you a quote. Again, if we were in the classroom, I would say, who can tell me what's wrong with this? Okay, so I'm going to read this to you. Within the next 10 years, advanced small modular reactors could change the way we think about reliable, clean, and affordable nuclear power. Instead of going big, scientists and engineers went small, developing mini reactors that are roughly a third of the size of a typical nuclear power plant. I don't know if anyone wants to drop in the chat. What about that jumps out to them? And if not, that's okay too, but I just thought I would ask that. Well, yes, Candace, that is obviously an issue. If you have concerns about nuclear power, I'm not even going there. There's actually something else that was directly in that quote that should stand out to you. If we're talking about this as a solution to climate change, and that this is going to be the renewable energy of the future, the renewable energy that is going to save us all from the climate crisis, it is in that very first, 4 words of the quote I read to you. Within the next, okay, it's 5 words, 10 years. Do we have 10 years? Do we have 10 years to act on climate? No, we don't have 10 years to act on climate. So this is just a completely inappropriate solution to climate change. I will say, for those of you who aren't aware, the Biden administration is actually pushing SMRs as an alternative, and they're pushing for this to be something that we start investing heavily in. That's part of why these bills are popping up in multiple states across the country. But it is a false climate solution because of lots of reasons. I'm not even talking about the radiation and the waste, which is its own issue, but from a perspective of time and cost. These are incredibly expensive projects. They're incredibly time intensive. Most nuclear plants, even if we're talking about SMRs, will take at least a decade to get up and running in order to get permits, to get everything built, and to get it actually generating electricity. So this is not the way that we want to address the climate crisis. This bill that I'm referring to is Senate Bill 271, and it essentially shifted the cost and the risk of small modular nuclear reactors onto the backs of ratepayers. So we can put everything else aside, everything else that we worry about when it comes to SMRs. We already know it's not a proper solution, right? It's too expensive, it's too time intensive, we're concerned about waste, all of those things, you can push all of that aside. This bill, the core issue with it that I think will resonate with lawmakers, and Citizens Action Coalition has been working hard on this, so we're amplifying their messaging here because I think it's really important, is that this bill would require ratepayers to essentially foot the costs of building these SMRs, even if they never see the benefit of those SMRs start generating electricity. So if these SMRs never produce electricity, they never get off the ground, ratepayers are still going to have to foot the bill for all of the permitting, all of the construction. So this is what's called a CWIP, construction work in progress. So essentially it requires people who are paying for their electricity, it will raise the rates of your electricity in order to pay for the construction of these SMRs. So when we see nuclear projects taking over a decade to build and get running, and multiple examples of ratepayers footing the bill on projects that never even start producing electricity, legislators are, they're trying to push nuclear as the only viable renewable energy. And we just know that's not right. That's not true. Solar and wind are way more reliable. They get off the ground way faster. And that's where we should be investing our time and money. So reach out to your state senator, or not state senator, I'm sorry. Reach out to your state representative and ask them to oppose Senate Bill 271. If you want to talk about the other issues, you can, but we're trying to keep in mind who we're talking to here. State legislators don't necessarily always care about the environment. I hate to say that, but it's true. But they do care about taxes, and they care about rates of electricity. So those are the talking points that we think will work. And that is it. There are lots of other bills that are terrible in the legislature, and there are some bills that are good, but those are the ones I wanted to cover. I wanted to leave time for questions. I hope I didn't take too long. Nancy and Katie and everyone else, thank you so much. Remember, stay informed, stay active, stay engaged. Most importantly, stay hopeful, and don't forget to breathe, right? We're all living in crisis mode right now, and I know this may sound like woo-woo talk right now, but it is so, so important as activists that we take a second, just like in a choir, right? You can step back, take a breath, everyone else will cover for you. So don't forget to do that because it's so important. And I wanted to end with the John Muir quote. While John Muir had his own issues, I think this quote is one of my favorites of all time. When we try to pick out anything by itself, we find it hitched to everything else in the universe, and that's so true. And I'm so glad to be connected to all of you. So keep in touch. I'm gonna put up here my email address. And again, there are our social media links. I would love to hear from all of you. We also have phone banks that are going to start happening. Our wonderful legislative coordinator, Corey, has been working on putting those together along with Robin Skaya-Boss, who is with Indiana Beyond Coal. And so those are going to roll out. So if you're interested in helping us make calls on any of these bills, we're going to be starting with HB 1100. which is the No More Stringent Than bill. And we're also going to be focusing on those two positive bills, the HOA solar bill and also the renewable siting bill. So we would love to have help from anyone who wants to help us make calls to different supporters and encourage them to reach out to their legislators. So I will turn it back to whomever is taking over from me. Oh, and to ask questions. I'm happy to answer questions. Yes. Should I just pull those from the chat, or Katie or Nancy, were you going to pull those?
I'm happy to read them to you if you'd like. Kind of up to you.
I can do that. I'll just stop share. I think I've had this up long enough. People probably can see that.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
And I can go ahead and turn off the forced mute if you if you're comfortable with that.
Oh yes.
Okay, so that should be good.
That's great.
Okay.
Nancy, thank you for clarifying who ISTA is. I tend to just use my abbreviations and not think about it.
One question that came through, Julie asked, what is the entire name of the Wabash Valley company interested in carbon capture for the HB 1209? And what do we know about intentions?
Yeah, so Wabash Valley Resources is their name. I'm pretty sure that is their full name. And they are just really adamant that, I mean, their intentions are to make money. They've been very upfront that their intent is to make money. And so they've not hidden it. I mean, they've actually said that in committee hearing. So, you know, it's great that they want to implement carbon capture and sequestration instead of just, you know, polluting the air. But I also feel like this is a bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like is it a red herring? I don't know, whatever it is that like distracts attention, right? Draws attention away from the fact that this would be a new industry with new issues. And so this is like, again, it's a Band-Aid essentially.
Abby asked a question, and this might need a little bit more clarification as to where you were in the conversation when she asked it, but what would be a new emission source? Do you know what she's talking about?
I do know what she's talking about. So that was when I was talking about the carbon capture projects. A new emission source would be like building a new power plant, right? So we're building a new power plant that produces emissions that didn't exist before. So that's what I'm referring to when I'm talking about a new emission source. And that could be in any industry. It wouldn't have to be a power plant. Anything that would emit, in this instance, greenhouse gases or carbon dioxide in particular, but also methane.
Okay, excellent. Victoria had a comment where she's never seen how carbon capture and sequestration results in proven solutions. Has that been your experience as well?
So CCS is still, it's not implemented on a broad scale yet. And so I haven't seen it work on a large scale in this context. What we do know is that carbon sequestration works, right? When we're talking, and that's different. So like carbon capture and sequestration, that's really referring to industry. And yeah, it's not necessarily something that has been proven. In theory, it works, but we also know that when it has been tried at large industrial sites, and it has been tried, and occasionally it works, but we also have seen in California, I think it was a few years ago, there was a large abandoned gas storage well that was being used for carbon capture, and it had a huge methane leak, one of the largest that the US has ever seen, and it took like days, maybe even a week, I can't remember. It was days and days before they were able to plug that leak. And so it was just a giant methane leak that was just constant. And so it is definitely something that is not completely proven. In theory, it should work, and it does work occasionally, but it's not an answer for everything. What we would love to see for carbon sequestration are the things that everyone would love to see, which is trees, right? That's where we want to see carbon sequestration. We want to see investments in forests. We want to protect old growth forests. We want to see new forests planted, you know, and reclaiming land that is maybe being misused. I'm not saying that we need to like strip all the farm fields, but we produce more corn and soy than we need, and we could return those to forests as well. that's a whole other topic. I could get into what that corn and soy is used for, but the vast majority of it is not used for food. So carbon sequestration really can look a lot more clean, a lot more green, and just a lot more beautiful than what this industry is proposing.
Wonderful. I think that's all the questions that I see. But I suppose we invite those who are on the Zoom meeting to unmute yourself and ask a question if you have it. You can also feel free to continue to put those in the chat. And if you're watching on Facebook Live, comment them in the comment section.
Just so you all know, there won't be much that changes in the session in the next 2 days, but I am doing another presentation Friday night. So that's going to be even more laid back than this. So, and in fact, I'll probably drop that in the chat too. If anyone wants, if you have other bills or you have questions that like you don't want to ask here for whatever reason, or you find something out that you want to know, yeah, I'm happy to continue this conversation there. But
Yeah,
I'm also happy to answer.
I noticed that Candace Corson made an offer of getting more of her friends, like-minded friends on too. So Candace, maybe you could help advertise that Friday session that's happening. And I think that's your eat session, isn't it? Are you gonna drop?
Yes,
you're gonna drop a recipe or something?
Yeah, I'm gonna drop a recipe. I should have done that today, and I've been so overwhelmed with bills, I totally forgot. So I'm gonna do that tomorrow morning. So if you haven't signed up yet, I'm gonna drop the link. Hold on. Sign up, and I'm gonna send you a recipe. And this time I'll keep it simple since you're only gonna have a day to prepare. But yeah, I'm going to do these every month. Actually, probably more often than that, because during session, there's going to be lots of things happening. So maybe every 2 weeks for a while, where I'll share a recipe that will be vegan and delicious. And I might even share a cocktail recipe too, because it's going to be very much a socialization hour. And so it's just a chance for us all, since we can't be together in person, we can share a meal, share a drink, like you all do here with Northwest Indiana Green Drinks, and dish. That's what it's called, the director's dish.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's
that,
Great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's Amanda. That sounds like lots of fun, actually. So
yeah,
thank you.
I'm going to drop that.
sounds amazing.
It's just what we need to cheer us all up together.
Right,
Thank
exactly.
Amanda, when you were talking about, I just wanted to add a little thing here. When you were talking about the carbon sequestering, Representative Pat Boy from LaPorte and Porter County up here in Northwest Indiana, when that came up as, I think it was showing up as an addendum on a couple really good bills last legislative session. And Pat had actually cited an incident of a carbon sequestering accident that had happened in India and had received coverage in the National Geographic magazine. And I wish I had more information on that, at my hands, but I don't. So she did give testimony on the floor regarding how dangerous those practices can be, especially since they're not fully researched. And we really don't know potentially what the outcome could eventually be. So I'm just going to direct people to that particular incident that happened. I think it was several years ago, several years ago. So nobody on the House floor had even heard about it. So, I think if you can come up with examples like the one you shared about in California, because honestly, our elected officials, they just don't know. They really don't know. These bills are coming at them so fast and furiously that they don't have, and their aides don't have the time to gather all the information that they need. So anyhow, okay, Katie, are we free as far as questions that may be in the comment section on Facebook? Yeah, okay, good. I just wanted to be sure everybody gets a chance. And is there anybody who's live with us on Zoom right now that would like the opportunity to ask something before I make the announcement regarding next month's program? Okay, it looks like we're good then. I'm very excited about next month's presenter too, because she's one of our all-time favorites, and I can only get her about every 2 to 3 to 4 years. And it's going to be Dr. Erin Argelin, who's a geology professor at Indiana University Northwest. And she's going to be addressing the issue of lake shore erosion. And she's going to be talking about the causes of it, and also is going to be presenting some of the, I'm just going to use Amanda's term, the good ways to deal with it and the bad ways to deal with it. So it's going to be a very exciting session, and it's something that touches all of us that live on the southern shore, whether our favorite beach has disappeared or our neighbor's house is about to fall into Lake Michigan. It's something that all of us are extremely passionate about. So I encourage you to spread the word and to let everybody know. The March session, of course, we always meet the first Thursday of the month now. So it's going to be March 3rd. Oh, with 28 days in February, all of the days match up exactly in March. Oh, that's very convenient. So, spread the word, 6:30 as usual. And I'm going to welcome Erin back with open arms because she hasn't been with us for a while. So it'll be great. Okay. Katie, do you have anything you'd like to share here at the end?
A humongous thank you to Amanda. That was absolutely fascinating presentation. We are so pleased to be a partner with you and to be able to support you in this work. It really is an honor, and I definitely learned a few things this evening. Might be watching the recording to take down some notes since I couldn't do that while I was doing the back end of things here, but just very much appreciate your time and your expertise.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for all the work you all do and for having me.
Yeah, and what's really exciting, we're recording these now. They're going to be on Save the Dunes Facebook page, the live thing that's recorded. And then Katie and staff at Save the Dunes have been really great about uploading these sessions onto YouTube also. And I know when we're able to do that, a lot of people feel more comfortable if they just don't want to interface with Facebook whatsoever. So Katie, thank you, and everybody there at Save the Dunes. We would not be able to do this without you. And always love seeing your smiling face. Thank you. Okay, so I guess it's goodbye then. Oh, Daisy Lee joined us too. Oh my gosh, people came on that I didn't even notice. Okay, Bonnie, Daisy, hi. Okay, thank you, everybody.